So my name's Zach Gallman, and this is my video response 1 for the Bacchae. So my answer to question 1 was I thought the language and the way that the characters spoke took a lot of getting used to, and it was kind of hard to understand the story in the beginning, but later on I kind of put the pieces together. And I also thought it was interesting how Dionysus and Pentheus both kind of had their own goals, and they were both power-driven, so they were kind of foils of one another. And my answer to the second question is, Pentheus displays the value of punishment and greed, and he often tries to exert his power over people who follow the Bacchaic religion. And he kind of just gets lost in that and ignores signs that he's not the most powerful here, often gets tricked by Dionysus, and he arrests, imprisons, and resorts to unnecessary punishments for people, including Dionysus, which didn't really work out for him. The chorus and the Maenads both display loyalty, mainly to Dionysus. That's their main value. My answer to the third question is I was confused on what Bromios was, but I looked it up, and it's a term for a divine figure. And this basically told me that the chorus was on the side of Dionysus, and that also is what led me to say that they were loyal to him. Well, not the only reason, but that's like that was the first indicator in the story. I also looked up what Bacchaic meant, and it's simply relates to the god of Bacchus, or the god, like he's the god of drunkenness, which is Dionysus in the story. They're one and the same, essentially. My answer to number 4 was I think the Maenads are depicted as empowered and free women. They aren't listening to the heads of their families or the king of Thebes, and the women also wounded and drove men out. Here's a quote. "Oh, the women wounded men set men to flight." And Pentheus sees these women in a very poor light, such as when someone corrects him when he says that the Maenads were sleeping with like many people, like many men. And he said, "Some lying on their backs upon piney needles, also modestly, or all modestly, not as you suggest, sir." So not everybody sees him in the same way as Pentheus does, but Pentheus sees them in a very poor light. My answer to number 5 is I think that Elvis is the cover because of his similarity to Dionysus. They're both considered to be kind of gods, but that's like hyperbolic in Elvis's sense. They also both have large followings of women, which I think is the main reason that he's the cover. And they both make women kind of go crazy, Dionysus more literally than Elvis. And my first question is, what do the verses or choruses do for the story? They kind of just seemed like filler in between different sections of the story, and I didn't really get much meaning out of them. And my second question is, Dionysus doesn't seem to be a protagonist in this story. He only brings chaos and destruction to kind of serve his selfish goal of getting the props that he thinks he deserves. So does anyone else see Dionysus as a protagonist? Because I really don't. Anyway, thank you. I went a little bit over, but I had a lot to talk about. So thank you for watching.